Nirmal Bang, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Hiral Dadia. We have with us Mr. Ravi B. Goel, Chairman and Managing Director, along with Mr. Saurabh Lal, Chief Financial Officer at AGS Transact Technologies, joining in. Welcome to the show, gentlemen. A pleasure to speak to you as well, and congratulations on achieving this milestone of going public.
Thank you. Thank you so very much.
So to start off with, if you could just give us a brief history about, AGS Transact, what has been the journey over the last 2 decades and a few highlights about it.
Thank you, Hiral. AGS, as we are there in the payment space, we are there in the cash business, we are there in the digital business. On cash, our main business has been the ATM outsourcing business, and that has been backed by cash management, which we do in our 100% subsidiary called Secure Value. On digital side, we have 100% subsidiary called Global India Transact Services Limited, where our main activities are the deployment of point of sale systems for retailers, for corporates, and specifically for oil merchant companies, their retail outlets. We are also very active in issuance of prepaid gift cards, and very soon we are launching the prepaid NCMC card. And we also have a financial switch, which we have, which we provide services on a SaaS model to various banks and financial institutions. We have a tie-up with one of the leaders in this financial switch in technology called ACI, and we have been very, very successful in that.
Absolutely. And I think the space is growing as well, especially in the listed space. I think, if I'm not mistaken, yours is the 3rd or the 4th company in the last couple of months that has been listed from a similar space. So overall, from the current products and services, what is the proportion of revenue split across these segments?
So, as Ravi has just mentioned, that we are very aggressive in both in the cash space and the payment space. Cash continue to be a very, very dominant revenue stream generator for us also, both from the revenue generating point of view also, and from the profitability point of view, because we command a very, very leadership position in the market. We, as per the last research which was done by Ken on our company, we happen to be a 2nd largest ATM service deployer. We are a 2nd largest cash moving company in India, and we are the largest deployer of the digital POS at the oil marketing segment. So on a revenue front, I would say this we call it internally, our segment says a payment space segment, or and the payment space is further distributed between the cash segment and the digital payment segment. So as of today, approximately around 60% of the revenue comes from this payment space, which is a cash payment segment, and approximately 15% of revenue comes from a digital payment segment. So this largely cover our 75% of the revenue, and rest of the 25% revenues is coming from our other automation solutions business, where we do this automation business and the life cycle maintenance of those contracts. So from a growth perspective and from a strategy perspective, as Ravi had also mentioned, that we are expanding our network in the digital space, where we have a contract from all the 3 oil marketing companies. We are deploying those POS machines for all the 3 oil marketing companies, HPCL, IOCL, BPCL, which will give us more than 50% market share. At the same time, we will be getting into issuance, where we already have launched our product called Fastlane in the partnership with HPCL. That will continue to grow. So on a growth basis, and just to add on other part, like in cash business also, or cash payment business also, there is a huge focus coming and huge thought process coming from the banks, where banks are now planning to deploy a new type of machines called CRM, which is basically cash recycler machines. Just like where you are right now interacting on an ATM, where the ATM only do a dispensing of cash. These CRMs are very kind of sophisticated machines which take care of both depositing of the cash also and withdrawal of the cash also. The same cash can get be recycled. So a lot of banks are now coming up with a model where they're putting these machines on their branch networks, where they are basically guiding people that in case you are coming to the branch only for depositing the cash, you can be advised and guided to these machines where they get the instant credit also. So we believe this cash payment segment also and this digital payment segment will continue to grow, and they will definitely be continue to remain a very, very strong propositions with respect to revenue share and on the profitability also.
So now that we've been talking about where the revenue split goes, if you have to let us know what the revenue model looks like in terms of, do we really recognize a fixed fee-based product, or is it per transaction, per value basis?
So, Hiril, as we also mentioned, if you see our revenue streams also over a period of time, majority of our revenue comes from the service revenues. Approximately over 88% of the revenue, if I take March 21 as the last number, or August 21, or maybe December 21 the last reported number, approximately 88% revenue is a service revenue. Now, the service revenue consists of both forms of revenue, but the best part for Hiral for our business is that all those service revenue that we earn, they're coming from a very, very long-term contracts that we have with the customers, whether it's a ATM outsourcing business or our cash management business under secure value, or whether it's our digital business revenue coming in the form of MDR and other revenue stream which comes from, as I said, from 3 oil marketing company. There are long-term recurring revenues to us. Now they have various splits available to us. Like in case of ATM outsourcing, like large banks that we have in our portfolio, maybe one of the last 3 top private sector bank or one of the largest public sector bank, they're all working on a transaction fee-based contract, or I would say variable fee-based contract. All other banks that we have in our portfolio, we service almost all the major banks other than these 3 largest private sector banks. All other big private sector banks are also our customer. There we have a contract with a fixed fee basis where we get a fixed revenue on a monthly basis. Similarly, in case of our digital business strategy, our revenue is largely linked to the percentage of volume, or what we say is that the GTV, gross transaction value, that happens on those terminals or POS terminals is a percentage of those revenue. So it is in itself, it's a percentage is fixed. So higher the GTV or gross transaction value happens to our POS network, which is primarily been driven by our deployment on oil marketing retail outlets, which is with HPCL, IOCL, BPCL. So I would say split will continue to be in the similar range. Like if it's banks like largest private sector banks, we continue to have a, I would say, transaction fee-based contracts with them. For other banks, we will continue to have a fixed fee-based contract. For oil marketing companies, where we know the gross transaction values on those POS machines is also very, very high, we happens to earn our revenue on a percentage of sale value. So it will be mix of, I would say, variable. If the POS is getting deployed on behalf of other strategy, like where we're deploying POS machines on behalf of various banks for their customers, where we are giving them our complete infrastructure, it's a mix of percentage of MDR or monthly rentals also.
Right. So overall, multiple revenue models is that we adopt depending on the segment of business as well. So now, for an investor to understand the nature of business better and to track the growth trajectory, what are the key parameters that one should actually consider according to you?
Sure. So here, if we take, so as I said, our revenue is largely driven in the service contracts revenue. 88% of the revenue comes from the service business. So if we take one first case where we have like outsourcing contract with the banks, with the ATM outsourcing contracts, there we, as I said, we are dealing with the largest banks. So there I would say, how do we see that business, and how do we definitely like to guide our investors also, or to the market, that how should they see our revenue, is basically total number of ATMs that we have in our portfolio and total number of transactions that happens on those ATM on monthly basis or a quarterly basis or annual basis. We have those data basis which we bill to the customers. On a fixed fee basis contract, it is purely the number of ATMs that we have in our portfolio multiplied with the average revenue that we earn on average every contract on a monthly basis. Similarly, in case of digital business, which is POS business, which is again growing very, very fast because of this deployment of OMC POS, I would say the best way is that since our revenue is largely linked to the gross transaction value that happens on those POS machines, and a percentage of that revenue will come to us. So that is how we also track our KPIs, and this is how we also publish some of those KPIs in our last quarterly results or 9-month result, that this is the total GTV happens on those POS. And the market can see higher the GTV for us, higher the revenue will be in the digital segment.
Right. In fact, the kind of adoption that we are seeing with regards to digital payments and the success of UPI, what is the company's strategy to capitalize on this change in behavior?
So, as I said, since our platform or our digital strategy is both on the acquiring side and also on the issuing side, our machines are enabled or capable to take all the UPI-based transactions also. So a customer, for example, here if you went to any of the retail store or any of the petrol station where you want to utilize or use the UPI based transactions instead of credit card, debit card. So our POS machines are enabled where they can display the QR code immediately to the consumer, and the consumer can choose to pay through the UPI model also. And our revenue stream is also coming in the UPI based transactions also. There is a special incentive which was recently introduced by the MeitY, where they said in case any of the consumer who is using this UPI based transaction or RuPay based transactions card, so there will be a interchange revenue or the MDR that will get shared between both the issuer and the acquirer also. So that is one part. In case of on the issuance side, when we said where we said we have a product called Fastlane product and everything. So when you want to use a Fastlane, so now you need to load your wallet. It's a wallet based program. So you can utilize again. You can use your UPI based transactions to load your wallet. You can use your credit card, debit card. From that perspective, I think we are enabled our ecosystem to comply and ensure that the consumer convenience and consumers expectations or consumers right that whichever medium they want to use for the payment, it is enabled on our platform. So even though the UPI is definitely independently growing, but I think our plan of action is that in case of our acquiring side, we are dominating a sector which is a very, very niche segment of oil marketing companies, which have one of the highest GTV or gross transaction value get transacted. So we are trying to capture that. And at the same time, with the launch of this Fastlane app, we are again capturing the consumer side, where consumer, if we take a certain data on how the consumer spending happens, so largely, I would say high proportionate of the incomes or value of the consumer get consumed on the fueling of the vehicle, maybe to a two-wheeler or three-wheeler or a four-wheeler or a bus or anything. So we are again tapping this side of the market also. So on both the case side, whether it's acquiring through a merchant POS or a issuance of app, which is a Fastlane app to the consumer, we are capturing both sides of the market to ensure there is a very, very genuine and a very niche use case scenario, which is fueling, which is required on both the side. Consumer also need a fueling, and the merchant also need a convenience of payment, which he or she can give to their consumer so that they can also have a very sticky consumers with them.
Right. So overall, who would be your major clients across the three segments, and what's the revenue share from the top clients that we see?
So on as I said, on the digital side where we're deploying these POS machines, so all these three oil marketing companies are our largest customers. And then we have other private sector customers also in our portfolio. We are deploying these POS machines for various private sectors, petrol companies also. And in case of ATM outsourcing, as I said, we are present across almost all private sector banks, but largely our revenue comes from these three large private sector banks and one of the largest public sector banks also. So these are the 5 major customers which constitute our ATM outsourcing revenue. In case of digital, the large revenue comes from all these 3 oil marketing companies.
Right. And what's the revenue share from the top 10 clients?
I would say in case of ATM outsourcing, the top 10 constitute approximately, I would say around 70-75% plus revenue coming from this. In case of digital business, I would say around 80-85% revenue come from these 3 oil marketing companies.
Right. And are we expecting a change in terms of the revenue split by customer over the next few years?
So here our strategy is definitely to become a partner to these banks, whether it's a ATM outsourcing business or whether it's a digital business. So as I said, if you take any one of the example of large private sector bank, it is not only that we are only offering them ATM outsourcing services, we're also offering them various other solution services like switching solution, as Ravi has also mentioned. We are also offering them various reconciliation based solutions through our POS net, through our switching strategies. So our plan is to become a partner to them, become their preferred vendors also across territories. And at the same time, I would say how Ravi and the team we are internally, I would say, diversifying our risk profile on the customer is that we are not only dependent only on the one source of revenue from the customer. We are trying to increase multiple source of revenue from the customer. Chahe ATM outsourcing se ho, whether it happens from the cash management, whether it's happened from the POS acquiring business, whether it's happened from the switching solution business, or whether it's happened from the automation solution business. So I think that is how the strategy is internally.
Right. And in terms of geography as well, what is the strategy going forward in terms of domestic as well as global?
So Domestic definitely, Hiral, as I said, there is a research which has been done by Can that they have already positioned us that we are the second largest player in case of ATM outsourcing, cash management, and the largest deployer of the POS. Because of this growth of ATM outsourcing business, demand from the banking side, the banks are also expanding their CASA account. Bank also wants to expand the branch network. So, and since we are also the manufacturer, as I said, we have the automation solution where we sell the machines. So from an India perspective, geography perspective, I think we are present across all the length and breadth of the country. So whenever a contract comes to us, I think that the regional presence is never be a showstopper for us. We are present across all the length and breadth of the country from all north, south, east, west. From the global perspective, you see, as we have a strong global presence in some of the part of the country right now, their contribution to the revenue is, I would say, less than 5%. But what is most exciting for us in those territories that in whatever territory where we have got a very good tie-ups over there. So whether we talk about Sri Lanka, whether we talk about Cambodia, Philippines, I think the partners that we have been able to map over there or get in count of contract with them, they are very strong player in those markets. They have a very strong financial play. They also aspire to grow their payment space. So the long-term strategy would be to grow along with those partnerships, grow beyond. And I think whatever success we have already got in India from the cash side of experience, our software capabilities, like Fastlane app, it's completely built by us. So we are now going to use the same software app, same platform to offer the same kind of solution into another country where we have got another contracts also, which will get deployed on a full pan-India basis in very soon, sir. So that will get launched very soon. So it's one of the largest petroleum company of, I would say, BP globally. So we'll be launching it in the country. So where again the same expertise or same success of India will be used. So on a go forward basis, Hiral, I think we have a plan to grow that business, but I think primary focus is to bring this business at India at the digital level, cash payment to continue to grow and use the same experience in those territories.
Right. And has there been a major impact of COVID on the business, maybe say in terms of deployment delays or collection dues, bad debts, etc.?
So, I think this COVID was unfortunate for all form of businesses.
Absolutely.
Not all businesses got impacted, and so do ours. The only thing that for us was that since we were part of the essential services from day, so we have to ensure that the ATMs are always up and running because of various restrictions and various guidelines. A lot of banks, branches, and other available source of cash for the customer was not available because of various restrictions. So ATM was the only channel which was actually working. If you remember on the first lockdown, which has happened, even RBI also appreciated that most of the ATMs were filled with cash. They were able to service the consumer need because otherwise people were very reluctant to go to the branch, or a lot of branches are also closed because of the contaminated zones and areas. But having said that, yes, our business, since as I said, our business is also largely linked to the transaction values and other things. So we also saw impact in the transaction levels of the pre-COVID. So now also we are evaluating and validating all our transactions at the pre-COVID levels and post-COVID levels. But having said that, there are various other sources of revenue which got increased in last 2 years, like digital got a lot of push and penetration because of OMC deployment. Fuel is almost crossed the pre-COVID levels, so that has also supported us. And various other initiatives in last 2 years, Hiral, has happened, where banks have also got into various compliances, so digital forms of revenue has come. But yes, on a transaction side, they definitely, we also got impacted because of the low transaction, because of the contaminated zone lockdowns and everything.
Right. And overall, if you see in terms of the business front from here on, what are the capex plans for the upcoming year, and what's the long-term outlook on the business looking like?
So on a capex, there are three major businesses in our company which looks where we need the capex. One is the ATM outsourcing business. So we need a capex for deploying of more and more ATM/CRMs, cash recycler machines. The second capex that we do, as I said, we have a good order books of POS deployment for this digital POS, where we need a capex. And the third one is that where our cash management business, where we need vehicles to service those ATMs all across the country. So these are the three major areas where we need capex. I think from the history and the current order book and the strategy of the company, I think our need will be approximately, I would say, 125, 150 crore on year basis for the capex purpose. And we believe that within a couple of years, or I would say from the, I think now I think everyone is believing that the economy is fully opened up. I think most of the states or cities and specifically municipalities have removed the restrictions at all the levels. So I think the customer rush or the customer movement will be definitely more and more free over a period of time, which will bring like offices will come back to the normal capacity. We're expecting that, and I think everyone is expecting that the office capacity will be back to the normal, maybe starting from the first next year from the financial year. So I think from that perspective, we see a good growth in the business from the ATM outsourcing also and from the digital powers also.
Right. So what's the kind of growth trajectory that we are looking at from a top line, bottom line perspective, and any milestones that we have in mind?
Definitely as a company internally, we have a lot of strategies and plans in place, but it will be difficult for me to give more and more detailed information on you. But yes, having said that, as you said, we are running with a very, very good order book in our hand from both cash payment business, from the digital business. And we believe like with the influx of like this cash recycler machines, POS deployment, our strategy to expand this fast lane. So Fastlane app right now, like we have launched with HPCL, we have planned to launch it, become agnostic so that it can be utilized or used by any consumer at any petrol station. So from that strategy perspective, I think we have a good strategy plan, and I would say allow us another quarter to deliver this March closing, and then we'll definitely give a guidance for the next year and maybe for the couple of years.
Absolutely, and I think that's something which we'll wait and watch for all as well. Thank you, Ravi. Thank you, Saurabh, for joining us on the show. Pleasure to speak to you, and good luck for the coming quarters, and speak to you soon again.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Hiral. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel for in-depth interviews of India Inc. and press the bell icon so that you do not miss our updates.